Hello YouTube. In this video I want to take a look at a game which I played against an opponent who has kind of given me some trouble in the past. He's a very solid player, and well, this game I won on time after 44 moves, and I think the quality of the game is overall pretty good. There were a couple of blunders, which is to be expected for a blitz game. It was a 10-minute game with a 5-second delay. So you might be wondering, well, how did I manage to win on time when you have a 5-second delay? But it happens. So we have a Sicilian. I did not want to go into a theoretical battle against my opponent, so I went for this line, and I guess my opponent is still hoping that I'll play knight f3 and d4. That way he can play whatever he feels like playing, a knight or a dragon or something. So I'm just gonna play this quiet line that doesn't really offer an advantage to white. And here my opponent played bishop g4. Now here I think my opponent made the first inaccuracy. I mean, it's not that big a deal giving up the bishop here, because, well, the position is relatively closed, and my bishop, well, it's not very good because my pawns are on light squares. And here maybe I shouldn't have taken. Maybe f5 would have been a little bit more practical. So this was the idea when my opponent captured my knight on f3. He wants to have a good knight against a bad bishop. And here I played king h1 because, well, we were spending quite a bit of time at the beginning, and, well, potentially there's ideas of knight capturing on f3, or even if just the knight moves somewhere, then the queen can come and check the king. So just prophylactically moving the king to avoid any checks. And now my opponent has a threat. So the threat is knight takes, and after, let's say, rook takes, queen takes, and I'm gonna lose a pawn. So I have to play rook a1. Now a6, my opponent is hinting at playing b5. Here I played a bishop g5, which I wanted to play immediately, but I played bishop e3 instead because I didn't want a queen landing on d4 with check. And here my opponent surprised me with this move. At first I wasn't sure if this was a really good move or just a, well, maybe not a blunder, but just a bad move. And well, here I kind of just did kind of the same that my opponent did. Take the knight and put the knight on d5. And here my opponent played a really good move, bishop g5, which forces my queen to move. But, well, I guess you can argue that the queen is better placed on f2 than on d2. The knight goes back. I guess the idea is to go f5. At least that's what I thought in the game. So I'm just improving the position of my queen and putting a little bit of pressure down the g file. f6. I did not like this move when I saw it. I mean, I didn't like it for my opponent. I liked it for myself because this diagonal gets weakened, and I do have a light scored bishop. Now, I did blunder later in the game, but because this diagonal is opened up, it actually helped me not lose the game. So I played bishop g4, and now I went h4, bishop goes back, h5, and now my opponent counterattacks on the other side of the board. Bishop f5, and I don't mind if my opponent captures, because this knight isn't really doing anything, and this bishop is also kind of blocked in by my own pawns. So here my opponent played knight e2, which was a bit surprising, and after queen g4 my opponent played, I guess, the first blunder. Well, maybe blunder is too strong, but now white does have a significant advantage if you find the right move, which I did not. I played knight takes. Had I played g3, for some reason this is winning. I still don't really understand why this is winning, but you have to take with the e pawn. If you take with the c pawn, then it's not really doing anything. I know the engine says that it's still good, but if you let it run to a depth 22 or longer, then it doesn't like it as much. The real test is taking with the e pawn, and now this move. So if you take, well, queen takes, and let's say something like rook f3, queen g5, check, and apparently in this position, after bishop g6, white is just practically winning, even though, I mean, my king looks really weak compared to this king. This king looks pretty safe compared to my king, so why this is winning for white, I guess I don't really understand chess. So we traded knights, bishop takes, which is what I was expecting, although the engine prefers to take with the pawn. And I played this move with the idea of potentially going to h3, or maybe if the bishop moves to g3. And here is the move that I missed. Now, because the pawn is on f6 and not back on the f7 square, I have this move, bishop e6 check. Now, obviously I can't take with a pawn because I get checkmated, and that's game over. But after this, king h8, and I take with the bishop, and I'm fine. And I guess my opponent was running low on time. Well, we both were actually running low on time by this point. So rook h3, h6, which I was happy to see because he has a dark square bishop and all his pieces are on dark squares. So this bishop is actually pretty bad. And because it's a dark square bishop, well, all my pieces are on light squares, which means that this bishop is not attacking anything and can't attack anything except maybe this pawn at some point. But how is that gonna happen? Well, my bishop is not amazing, but it is controlling this square, so it is restricting this king. So I took advantage of the weak square on g6, and my opponent centralized the queen, attacks the pawn. So I gain a tempo on the bishop. Bishop retreats. Rook h2 defending the pawn, but this actually is a blunder. I should have played bishop e6. After rook h2, well, my opponent did not see this very nice move f5, which is winning for black. After queen g4, well, here you have two threads. The rook is attacked, and if you move the rook, well, you lose the queen. So that's game over. But my opponent did not see it. And here I went rook g1, which is not a good move. Here he went queen f3, but again f5 is winning because the threat is to win the queen with rook f6. So if I play something like queen e6, then after takes, queen check. Even though it looks like I'm down only a pawn, look at the evaluation. This king's pretty safe. This pawn is looking like it's gonna drop at some point. The bishop doesn't really have a good square. Both of black's rooks are active. This rook is pinned, cannot move. This rook is also very passive. And well, this queen cannot checkmate the black king by itself. So after queen f3, again queen g4, not the best move. And here I just wanted to trade queens because this queen is harassing my king. And here my opponent did not take the pawn. I guess sometimes you can bluff in chess because, well, after taking the pawn, rook h2, if the queen drops back, I don't really have enough compensation for the pawn. Yes, I do have some pressure on the pawn, but I can't take the bishop because, well, the other bishop is still defended by the pawn on f6. And it's just unlikely that I'm gonna be able to do anything. So we trade queens, and by this point we were pretty much playing on less than a minute. So at this point I was getting ready to offer my opponent a draw because we had probably less than 10 seconds. And here my opponent lost on time. But just looking at the position objectively, this should be a draw. I mean, there's no way to break through. The only pawn break would be to push this pawn, but I'm not going to move this rook. So if I just leave the rook there, there's really nothing that black can do. So if you like the video, do like, share, and subscribe, and thank you for watching.